I think we're going to open up for questions. So there's a process here. Sorry.
Gotcha.
C-SPAN dictates that everyone who wants to ask a question get up and line up in this aisle. And this gentleman here with the boom mic is obviously the person who's going to help you out there.
Yeah.
And the CNN moderator pick the questions.
Yeah. I'm going to need you blocking this, actually, Matt. I know you're here. I'm going to need you blocking, too.
All right. So you talked about how Adam talked a little bit about how after the Kerry campaign, the students were all in a vacuum, and these organizations were trying to get people to, I guess, continue. So what do you guys have like a preemptive plan to get people who are involved in current campaigns for the presidential primaries, either in case they lose the primary, how to keep them involved at that point, or if they get to the general, lose or win, a plan to immediately put into play, right after the election is over?
I would just say 2 quick points. Wow, oops. The first is that I was not motivated the day after John Kerry lost. So please don't put me in that category of go-getters like Kai, who's in line over there, who started the Roosevelt Institute the next day. I would say that we will have less of a problem this cycle because these organizations are up and running much more so than they were at last cycle. And the other part is I think all of these organizations plan for a little bit of the drop-off in some of their activities during an electoral cycle. It's just a natural level of where the energy flows to. So you're not going to expect maybe the same level there. But then it also can then reflow back into them after the electoral cycle's over, would be my thoughts on that.
One of the things that I think this is another reason why what Alexis mentioned about a cycle of accountability is so crucial, because come November 2008, we'll either need to start the work to get our new president and our new Congress to move forward, and that's going to require a lot of still grassroots movement. As I heard someone say the other day, FDR wasn't FDR when he was elected. They had to keep pushing him further and further and further and further. I mean, he ran on a balanced budget platform. This stuff still takes a lot of work. Every single major good piece of legislation that's passed in history has come from a grassroots movement. So even when we win these elections, or if we end up losing them and we have to, go through another couple days of depression, heaven forbid, what we're going to have to do is get back up again and either start focusing on the next election or start focusing on the next pieces of the grassroots agenda, which, hopefully it's going to be expanding healthcare to more Americans who don't have it, fixing some of these massive problems in our tax code that reward hedge fund managers instead of working people. You can get into whatever issues you want. We've got big issues to tackle, and we can't just say, oh, we won an election, it's going to happen, which is one of the reasons why policy-focused C4s and C3s, as opposed to electoral organizations, are absolutely critical. We're actually building out all 3 so that we can do accountability work, so we can do leadership development, so that we can do electoral work and just be moving people around our different legal structure.
I would just add one thing quickly. I mean, that those people that are working on this, that's precisely why Young People For and various other organizations were established. And the networks that are built could easily and will impact elections in the future. But whether or not those elections are won or lost has no impact on the work that we're doing, and will always be important, always be critical to invest in the next generation of progressive leaders, as there will always be a next generation. But beyond that, there will, as Matt was saying, there will always be local, community-based social change work that needs to get done, and organizations need to be there to support that.
Hi, my question is about taking people's interests and moving it into the next step of actually getting involved. We know that the vast majority of young people agree with liberal, progressive, democratic values, but about an even percentage self-identify as Democrats as independents. So on one hand, how do we get more people to take their overwhelming interest and agreement with us on how the world should work and take that next step of making the phone call, going to the website, getting involved in the real world, not in so much the offline world, but on the street? And do you think it's important that we do that more from a Democratic Party perspective or a progressive politics perspective to try and move people more towards saying not just I'm a liberal or I'm a progressive, but I'm a proud Democrat?
It's like, that's a lot of questions in one. First, don't confuse the kind of the people registering as independent with that. I mean, it's almost like forget that, right? I mean, because I don't think it's an unhealthy thing for a lot of people to be going out there and voting for Democratic candidates, but to be remaining independents. And the only problem with that is for Democratic operatives who seek to go out and identify them by their registration and turn them out based on that. It makes it trickier. But there's nothing wrong early in life with being a little bit open-minded and skeptical about what you see before you sign on to a big institution. The how you engage people, which I think the second question is, it's the person-to-person stuff. I mean, you just the first rule of politics is if you want somebody to do something, you have to go and ask them to do it, and that makes no difference if it's going out and asking for money or showing up to a demonstration or a sit-in at the or you know, purchasing a particular type of product because it's going to be better for the environment than another. It doesn't. It's all just about going out and talking to people and asking them to do it through whatever means you can. And I don't know, maybe other people have thoughts on this, but I think people have to make their own decision about whether it's good to be partisan or nonpartisan. I think there's roles for both, and there's a complex set of reasons why you would do one at one time in one context based on, you know, you can do a lot of voter registration with tax deductible money that's 501c3, and it makes a lot of sense to populate the voter file with a lot of new voters. From just a sort of straight organizational perspective. It's also, as I experienced with the New Voters Project in 2004, it was incredibly important to have partisan groups out there engaging young people, but for a lot of folks, they weren't ready to be partisan. I mean, if you, from the start of that project to the end of that project, they started off, young people were polling very heavily in support of President Bush and this stupid war in Iraq. That completely shifted by the end. I mean, it was like, you know, 180 degrees. But along the way, in talking to people, you know, getting them engaged, not coming in and not having a very sort of prescriptive agenda allowed a lot of people to be engaged, to start a conversation that could then lead them to a place that they naturally wanted to go. So I think there's definitely places where being nonpartisan is important and helps, but obviously we're out there as progressives, or for myself, you know, as a Democrat, to kind of go out there and build a particular thing, to build particular majorities, to win power for a whole set of issues which are critical. And so at some point you have to get the horse to go and drink water.